Hi, welcome to the quiz. You will be presented with multiple choice questions, each displayed on screen for a short time. Please make sure to attempt answering all the questions. Quizzes help us to reinforce our knowledge, identify areas where we need to focus more, and improve our overall performance. Taking quizzes can also help to increase retention and make the learning process more engaging and enjoyable. With that out of the way, you can answer along on quizalto.com. The exact URL of this quiz will be in the notes down below. Let's get started. Good luck. How does AWS Device Farm handle app updates for testing? Automatically installs updated apps. Supports only initial app installations. Provides APIs for app updates. Requires manual app uninstallation. In AWS Device Farm, what is a test environment configuration called? Test group. Device pool. Execution profile. Device set. What is the purpose of AWS Device Farm's test session termination feature? To manage AWS IAM user roles. To monitor AWS CloudWatch metrics. To archive test artifacts. To end test sessions manually. Which AWS service can be used to schedule recurring test runs on AWS Device Farm? AWS Glacier. Amazon SES. AWS OpsWorks. AWS CloudWatch Events. How does AWS Device Farm ensure test reliability across different operating systems? By configuring AWS IAM roles per OS. By running tests sequentially on each OS. By using AWS Redshift for cross-OS comparison. By validating tests against OS-specific requirements. How does AWS Device Farm facilitate collaboration on test projects? Through AWS Kinesis data streams. Through shared access with AWS IAM roles. Through AWS Lambda function invocations. Through AWS API gateway endpoints. What is the purpose of AWS Device Farm's test monitoring feature? To track test progress in real time. To automate AWS IAM user creation. To manage AWS CloudFormation stacks. To monitor AWS Redshift cluster performance. How does AWS Device Farm support integration with third-party testing tools? Through AWS AppStream virtual machines. Through AWS CloudFormation templates. Through custom test scripts and plugins. Through AWS CodeCommit repositories. Which AWS service can be used to automate the provisioning of AWS Device Farm resources? Amazon ECR. AWS Elastic Beanstalk. AWS CodeCommit. AWS CloudFormation. Which AWS service can be integrated with AWS Device Farm to automate the testing process? AWS Step Functions. AWS Code Pipeline. AWS Direct Connect. AWS CloudFormation. What is AWS Device Farm's key benefit for global app testing? Support for blockchain integration. Real-time analytics dashboard. Built-in AI for test automation. Access to devices in multiple regions. What is the purpose of AWS Device Farm's test session scheduling feature? To plan test runs at specific times. To automate AWS Lambda function deployments. To manage AWS Elastic Beanstalk environment variables. To configure AWS CloudWatch alarms. How does AWS Device Farm handle user authentication for accessing test resources? Through AWS S3 bucket ACLs. Through AWS IAM roles and policies. Through AWS Redshift database roles. Through AWS Lambda function triggers. How does AWS Device Farm ensure secure access to test reports and artifacts? Through AWS Lambda function invocations. Through AWS IAM roles and permissions. Through AWS S3 bucket ACLs. Through AWS RDS database encryption. How does AWS Device Farm handle app permissions during test execution? By using AWS RDS database roles. By enforcing static app permissions. By granting necessary permissions dynamically. By restricting app permissions. What is the maximum duration of a single test run on AWS Device Farm? 1 hour. 30 minutes. 24 hours. 3 hours. How does AWS Device Farm handle app uploads for testing? Supports only apps from the AWS Marketplace. Accepts apps in various formats. Limits app size to 10 megabytes. Requires apps to be in zip format. What is the role of AWS Device Farm's test case management feature? To manage AWS Direct Connect configurations. To optimize AWS Redshift cluster performance. To monitor AWS CloudFormation stack updates. To organize and track test cases. What is the purpose of AWS Device Farm's device connectivity management feature? To handle Wi-Fi and 4G per LTE connections for devices. To manage AWS IAM role permissions. To optimize AWS Elastic Beanstalk environment variables. To monitor AWS CloudWatch logs. What is the purpose of AWS Device Farm's device filtering capability? To encrypt device data. To select specific devices for testing. To monitor device battery usage. To schedule recurring test runs. How does AWS Device Farm ensure data integrity during test executions? By synchronizing test data with AWS DynamoDB. By managing test artifacts in AWS S3. By storing test data in multiple AWS regions. By encrypting test data in transit and at rest. How does AWS Device Farm manage app distribution for testing? Through AWS S3 bucket policies. Through integration with AWS Code Pipeline. Through automated app signing. Through AWS Direct Connect for data transfer. What is the role of AWS Device Farm's network proxy feature during test runs? To manage AWS IAM role permissions. To optimize AWS Redshift cluster performance. To automate AWS CloudFormation deployments. To simulate different network conditions. What is the role of AWS Device Farm's real-time logs feature during test runs? To optimize AWS Elastic Beanstalk deployments. To capture device logs during test execution. To manage AWS RDS database instances. To monitor AWS Lambda function invocations. What is the primary benefit of using AWS Device Farm's plugin for continuous integration tools? Integration with CI/CD pipelines. Integration with AWS QuickSight. Integration with AWS Workspaces. Integration with AWS AppStream. And that's a wrap. Thanks to everyone who participated. Remember, you can answer along on quizalto.com, where you can keep track of your progress and find much more quizzes. We hope you had a fun and challenging time. Until next time. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel for more. Hit the bell icon to be notified as soon as we upload. Please leave a comment if you have any thoughts or suggestions, and if you think this video is worth sharing with someone who could benefit from it, please forward a link to them. See you next time. Thanks for watching.